Sound good?
No.
خير إن شاء الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Our apologies for the delay with regards to the lack of technical expertise from my part. Moving forward, we're still speaking on fasting and the things which break one's fast, the things which are recommended when you fast or when you wish to break your fast. Now, the next subchapter, it says Faslun fi ahkam al-qada. Some basic rulings of making up missed fasts and breaking your fast. When you intentionally break it or you broke it for a legitimate reason or excuse, when and how do you make up those missed days? When and how do you make up those missed days? Very important concept for every Muslim, let alone the student of knowledge, is not just to learn that which is correct, but to learn that which is incorrect. Or, even if a thing is correct and is not considered to be incorrect, but knowing how to undo a thing, to know how to undo something, and to know how to fix something that's already proper when a thing becomes broken or injured or breaks down. So the concept of learning how to put something together, construct it, and learning how to properly deconstruct it. Learning what to do in case of a mistake, in case of an accident, in case of a shortcoming, in case of a slipping. What do you do when things don't go right? Not as you planned. So when it comes to al-qadha, make it up your fast, whether you broke your fast intentionally or unintentionally, which doesn't necessarily count. Because if you unintentionally broke your fast, you still have your fast. But let's say if a person violated the fasting, he just says, I'm going to eat, I'm going to drink. Or what I really meant is when you have the intention to break your fast for a legitimate reason. How and when and why do you make it a qada? Whether it pertains to the book of fasting or whether it pertains to anything that you do and you learn in Islam, is to learn how to put it back together, how to take it apart. Now, very important. And oftentimes people, they say, when they're asked the question, well, why did you do this? And how did you get into that situation? And what were you doing there in the first place? Right now, that's not important. That's not important right now. What's important is it happened. I made this mistake and I broke my fast. What do I do? Everyone understand? It's like a real life example. Your son or your cousin or nephew or someone comes to you, I got robbed. Someone stuck me up. Someone did this to me. He said, what were you doing out there at 2 a.m.? Right? Why were you alone in this place? At the moment, that question is what? It's irrelevant right now. Somebody robbed me. They stuck me up. Or someone beat me up. It's not important what I was doing, was I was wrong. That's not the purpose. If you care about that person and wish to help them out, you have to figure out how to help them with regards to the current situation. And the same applies to the Islamic fiqh. The same applies to the what? Islamic fiqh. A person made a mistake, they didn't pay zakah, they left the salah, they left fasting, they left Islam, whatever the issue is. How do I fix it? What? Now, currently. Everyone understand this? So that's the bigger concept that I'm trying to teach you. The bigger concept as a talibul ilm and as an imam, as a person who's going to give fatwa, answer questions, help people out. You have to learn how to deal with a situation which is imperfect. Everyone understand this? You have to learn how to deal with a situation which isn't supposed to be how it is. Everyone understand this? It's easy to deal with the situations when they're perfect. It's relatively easy. Of course, you have to have knowledge for that too. But anybody can deal with driving when it's clear skies, sunny outside, but now put rain on the road, or snow on the road, or sleet on the road. It's a different story now. Everyone understand this? And that's where the true skill and precaution of the driver, what? Is manifested. Everyone understand this? How to get out of the mistake or the imperfect situation. So he says with regards to making up fasts And this also goes to show us before we read is that Islam and creed, theory, and law, and etiquette, and politics, and every aspect of Islam is a merciful and tolerant way. It's merciful and it's tolerant. And nothing in the pure teachings of Islam is meant to be a hardship upon the people. And Islam takes into consideration the reality of its inherents, or of its those who adhere to Al-Islam, meaning the humans, who by nature are weak, by nature are forgetful, by nature who have limited energy, limited effort, limited ability, if you have maximum effort. That's what I mean. So Islam and the Sharia of Islam, it takes into consideration the natural state of the adherents, of those who practice it. And that is why we have rulings of making up missed prayers. That's why we have sujood as-sahu. That's why we have qada of fasting. That's why we have fixing a mistake that you made during Hajj. Because the nature of the pilgrim, the nature of the one offering prayer, the nature of the one fasting is weak, is forgetful, and at best, when a person is focusing and observing and adhering to the deen, they are, their energy, their effort is what? Their energy is what? It's limited as a human. It's a cap. It's the best that a person can do. So if Islam was a harsh and cruel religion, a religion in which there was no tolerance, a religion which just makes you or wants you to be a superhuman, then there would be no ahkam al-qada. There would be no sujood al-sahu. How did you make a mistake in your salat? How did you forget in your salat? What were you thinking about? You're praying and you're thinking about worldly things. You're thinking about a woman, or you're thinking about money, or you're thinking about sports when you're praying. That's not the ruling. The ruling is to focus in your prayer, to concentrate in your prayer, and it's to cut off the dunya in your prayer. But if and when you fall victim to your human nature, that's how you patch it up. You understand this? You're supposed to fast. You're not supposed to break your fast. But if you do break your fast, this is what you have to do to what? Make it up. And this is applicable to any other ruling in Al-Islam. Any other ruling. You understand this? You're supposed to live with your wife in harmony, in peace, love, and respect. If things don't work out, there's a way of you deconstructing that relationship. If things don't work out. I understand this? Because human beings are going to fight. Human beings are going to differ. Human beings are going to argue. Human beings will be greedy. Human beings will be selfish. Human beings will only see and hear their side of the story. I understand this? Human beings will be aggressive, oppressive. What heck is that? I understand this? So this is a very, very important technique for da'wah. Teaching Islam, calling to Islam through fiqh. Through fiqh. One of the ways why it's so good is because not too many people do it. So it's unique. And we know that the unconventional or the unorthodox, even if it isn't the best method, but just due to the fact that it's unorthodox, that in itself gives you a what? An edge. Because no one else is doing it. So you're having a debate with a Christian, you're having a debate with an atheist, you're having a debate with anyone who's against Islam, they're expecting you to say certain things and to reply certain ways. They have 3:16, 49:11, 12:24. They have those verses already planned out. So you come and you start making your argument from a whole different aspect. He doesn't have no time to what? To counter, because he didn't prepare for that. Everyone understand this? Or if you're not debating, but if you're just propagating Islam, calling people to Islam, you start talking about things which they're not used to hearing. Most people are used to hearing about Islam on a defensive understanding. What Islam isn't. It's not terrorism. It's not abusive of women. It's not about Arabs. It's not. And most people are not used to hearing what Islam actually is. Everyone understand this? Let alone talking about the Sharia. Let's talk about Sharia law. Let's actually discuss what Sharia law is and what it isn't. And to prove that Islam is a religion of mercy, regardless of the details, the specifics, but the maxims that we can all agree upon: missed prayers, missed Hajj, missed fasting, clearly shows that his mercy is taken into consideration. Praying sitting down, a pregnant woman, a breastfeeding woman, a man who's a traveler, a person who's a senior citizen. If Islam was just all hardcore, these rulings wouldn't what? They wouldn't be there. Everyone understand this? So it's very important, for you to do the unorthodox sometimes. When it comes to defending Islam, propagating Islam, having a debate about Islam. Everyone understand this? Everybody clear on this or not? And also the concept of what? Is that it allows you to have a greater appreciation of fiqh. It allows you to have a greater appreciation of fiqh. When you look at the maqasid, the major aims and objectives of the sharia, it allows you to have a better appreciation for it. You understand this? And it also makes it easier for you to know how to deal with ikhtilafat of the ulama, differences of opinion. From the things which show or which prove that this is a stronger view and this is a qawl rajih, is that other opinion is complex and difficult, and it places a clear haraj on the one who has to do it. Make up the prayer, pay the expiation, do this, make tawbah, and give that. That's a difficulty upon the mukallaf. So that view right there, along with this proof, with this hadith, with this athar, it shows you that is marjuh. And the qawl of these ulama is rajih. I'm understanding this when you understand the maqasid. And there are many other fawaid as well. And that's enough with regards to that. The author, he says, يَجِبُ عَلَى مَنْ أَفْطَرَ لِعُذْرٍ شَرْعِيٍّ أَنْ يَقْضِي. He says here, and we mentioned this last week as well, whoever breaks his fast for a legitimate reason has to make up the day. For a legitimate reason, he has to make up the day. He says, whoever breaks his fast, لِعُذْرٍ شَرْعِيٍّ, for a legitimate reason, must make up the day. And the opposite of that is if a person breaks his fast and is not based off of a legitimate reason, then he doesn't have to make it up. He doesn't have to make it up. And that making up the day is only based off of those who do it with a what? Udhr shar'i, a legitimate excuse. We mentioned last week as well with regards to the it says here ظاهره أن من أفطر لغير عذر لا يقضي لكن تقدم قريبا أن المصنف في السيل قد بين وجوب القضاء على من أفطر عمدا. It says in the footnotes what we've just explained. And there's another book of the author in which he expresses his opinion is that whoever breaks his or her fast with a reason or without a reason, legitimate or not, has to make it up as well. And this is also very applicable with regards to prayer. If a person intentionally abandons the salah, do they have to make the salah up? If you oversleep, it's no issue of discussion. You forget, no issue of discussion. You were forced, you were held down, you were unconscious, no issue of what? Discussion. With regards to there's no sin upon you. But a person now just doesn't feel like praying. They're lazy. Or, as they say, I'm off my deen, I'm going through something, I'm stressed out. Whatever the case may be. I'm depressed, I broke up with my boyfriend. Many women say. Or I'm divorced from my husband, I'm depressed, I'm stressed out, I'm in the streets. Whatever it is. I just got finished doing this, I can't go pray, I'm too messed up right now. And the person doesn't make salah. And then 2 days later, or 2 months later, or 2 weeks later, or 2 hours later, a person, they regret it. And they want to make tawbah, but they missed Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, etc. Do they have to make up those prayers? Should they make up those prayers? You understand this? There's a difference between forgetting the prayer, having an excuse, and you intentionally what? Abandoning the prayer. Everyone understand this? So from one thing, we learn 10,000 other things. So we're talking about fasting, but also takes us to other discussions, such as missing the salah, which is more common and very practical. Especially when we live in a time and a place in which many people come up to you and they say, for 5 years I didn't pray. For 10 years I didn't pray. I was a Muslim, I believed in it, I took my shahada, but I didn't practice Islam for all of those years. Do I have to make up the salah? Do I have to make up the fasting or not? You understand this? Because they broke their fast or they missed the prayers bidun udhr shar'i. It wasn't a what? Udhr shar'i. It wasn't a legitimate excuse. You understand this? In which a person intentionally breaks his prayer or breaks his fast because of a what? Legitimate reason, such as traveling, such as sickness. وهكذا. Everyone understand the difference here? He says, وَالْفِطْرُ لِلْمُسَافِرِ وَنَحْوِهِ رُخْصَةً إِلَّا أَنْ يَخْشَى التَّلَفَ أو الضعف. هكذا مضبوط. الضعف ولعل الصواب الضعف عن القتال فعزيمة. He says, as far as the traveler, وَنَحْوِهِ, and anyone similar to the traveler, such as, nope, that's different. But perhaps One may say it is. That's going to come in the next sentence, but perhaps a warrior, soldier, or someone who's sick, someone who's breastfeeding, someone who's pregnant, a lifeguard. You save someone from drowning, right? He says, وَنَحْوِهِ. He says, وَنَحْوِهِ. Similar, he says, رُخْصَةٌ. It's an allowance, meaning you don't have to break your fast if you're traveling. You don't have to break your fast if you're what? Traveling. He says it's just a what? You're allowed to. But you what? Don't have to. That's his view. That it's not obligatory. His view that it is that it isn't what? Obligatory. But it's what? Allowed. And the same applies to anyone else. Someone who's sick or something else. I can bear it. I'll be patient. I don't need to do it, right? He says, unless a person is afraid of a telef, of destruction. If you don't break your fast, you may die. You'll pass out from heat stroke. You understand this? It's too much. Your body can't take it, right? Or a person is too weak, not strong enough to actually fight. As we mentioned, a warrior, a soldier. فَعَزِيمَةٌ. Now it's no longer a rukhsa, but it is becoming what? An azima. It's become a what? An azima, meaning that you have to do it. That you have to do it. So, when we talk about traveling today, what's the best thing to do when you're traveling in Ramadan? Or before we get into the concept of what's the best thing to do, is it permissible to travel in Ramadan? Is it permissible to have a daily trip, to have a job which you have to go from city to city, state to state in Ramadan? Many people ask this question. Everyone understand this? A stewardess, for example, flight attendant, or a pilot, or a tractor trailer, one who drives a tractor trailer, methalan, or a smaller truck, but he's going from Jersey to New York to Philly, Atlantic City, so on and so forth. In Ramadan, can I keep this job? Can I have this job? Or is it haram for me to intentionally travel each and every day? And I know I'm going to be thirsty, I'm going to be tired, I'm going to be hot, I'm going to need energy on the road. Is that permissible or not? Everyone understand the issue? Understand the issue? It's permissible. And there's no sin in doing that. As long as you make it up later on. As long as you what? Make it up later on. Even with the intention, this Ramadan, I'm going to be traveling. I buy my ticket, I purchase my visa, I'm going to be traveling in Ramadan. I'm going to be driving what? In the daytime in what? Ramadan. And I intend on breaking my fast. It's permissible. Even if you have to travel daily. As long as you do what? Make it up later on. Everyone clear on this? So therefore he says it's a rukhsa. It's permissible to do. The next question is, we've clearly understood that it's permissible, but is it now recommended? Is it just permissible or is it now recommended? It's a huge difference between the two. Should the traveler break his or her fast? Or is it just allowed for the traveler to break his or her fast? Everyone understand this? Next issue before we get to that is, what's best when traveling? What is best? Is it best to keep your fast? Or is it best to break your fast? Two different issues now. Everyone understand this? That's a very long discussion on what's best. The reason why I'm bringing it up is because we live in 2019, in which we have air conditioning. We have leather seats, anti-lock brakes, right? Power steering, You have seat belts in certain cars, which what? And the chair, it does what? It hugs you, contorts you when you turn. Everyone understand this? Heated seats, all types of luxuries. Luxuries, right? So is that something which disqualifies you from breaking your fast when you're traveling? I.e., a person says you're hopping up and down on a camel's back in the desert, wind blowing in your face, it's dust and sand everywhere, you have the scarf over your face, right? That's one thing. Walking with a sack on your back and a stick is one thing back in the day, right? As far as you being in an air-conditioning airplane, sitting back with a cover over your body and slippers on, you don't have the recommendation or the allowance to break your fast because it's not a haraj. It's not a hardship upon you anymore. And the only reason why it is allowed to break your fast when you're traveling is to negate hardship. Everyone understand this or not? Next concept is, even if it is permissible with modern technology, is it now still recommended and still best to break the fast? For those who hold the view that it's best to do it. Everyone understand the difference? We're driving right now and it's 2 p.m. I can wait. Iftar is at 8 o'clock. I can wait. I'm not starving. I'm not going to pass out. But let's implement the sunnah. And the moment we get out of New York City, we get on the road, we go past the toll, the easy pass or whatever the case may be, stop at the gas station. Or I packed my tea in my bag. Bismillah. We're sitting down, the brothers are talking. The sun is up. I say, what? Bismillah. Break my fast. But I'm not hungry. I'm not thirsty. I'm not about to pass out. But I intentionally break my fast just to implement the sunnah. With the view that it is what? Best to break the fast and recommended. No difference on that. We got past that already. Are we understand the difference? Or a person may say, no, it's best to what? Keep the fast. If you're not shaken by the heat or the walking or the humidity or the seawater, the salt splashing in your face if you're in a canoe or a boat. We understand the difference? And once we open up that door of saying what it's supposed to be and how things were and it's no longer the same, there won't be but so many rulings that will remain in existence. A woman traveling on a mahram, it was different. Riba was different. That's different. This is different. Many, many things will be taken away. So be mindful of this. I'm not here to give the answers. I'm here to get you to what? Think about them and how to extract them from the compressed what? Metin. From the compressed what? Metin. Everyone understand this? Moving forward. He says, "Oh, dha'fa an al-qital." Or a person is afraid of being weak, too weak to fight. And this is an example of the falsehood of those who try to extract, and the truth is the truth, whoever's listening, but those who try to extract certain things from Islam or from the Quran. Right? We're talking about fasting, breaking one's fast. Fasting is peaceful, right? Buddhists fast, Christians fast, Jews have a fast, and Muslims what? They have a fast, right? But now, guess what pops up and comes up now? A jihad. We're not talking about nothing about violence or fighting, offense or defense. We're talking about something peaceful that the other religions do. But now what? The J word comes out. So what do you do? So this is an example of how if you're trying to remove it from Islam and from the dictionary of the Muslims, it's what? Impossible. It just doesn't work like that. It's always intertwined and what? Connected. Just like all of the rulings are. All of the what? Rulings are. But you're talking about something such as epic and paramount as jihad fi sabilillah. And there's a crime upon the Quran and Islam to remove it. If there is an Islam with no jihad. Whatever level of the jihad it is. Whatever type it may be. But the general warrior mindset to take it away from the Muslim, that's a crime. That's a crime against Allah. A crime against his deen. Everyone understand this? That's you're breaking the rules now. Everyone understand this? And this is an example of how it can't be what? It can't be done. An integral part of the fabric. Everyone understand this? And this is why the non-Muslims try their best to what? Take it away. Because once we get you outside of that mindset, you just push you over and roll you over without no effort. Everyone understand this? And then your children, you won't leave Islam. You love Islam too much. Or it's too hard for you to change what? Your ways now. But your children will definitely get them. We'll get your children, no doubt. Next generation is ours. The next generation didn't migrate from a country. They're not old and stubborn and stuck in their ways. They like video games. They like college scholarships. They like this, they like that from day one. We'll get some of them to what? Leave Islam and to apostatize one other billah. You have to be mindful of this now. You're playing against someone who's a grandmaster at chess. This person is playing 6 and 7 moves ahead. 6 and 7, 10 moves ahead. You understand this? A prodigy of chess. You're thinking about, where should I move this rook? And this person has the game already mapped out to put you in checkmate. You understand this? You have to be mindful. You have to wake up now. All right? So taking things away from the Muslim's mind, such as jihad fi sabilillah or al-wala wal-bara, and replacing them with other concepts. That's how Islam what? That's how it's destroyed, and it's how the Muslims are taken advantage of. So the concept of being violent, of breaking rules, of taking people's lives, of committing suicide, and so on and so forth, these are the tools that they use to get you to reject everything, and for it never ever to exist in your mind. Everyone understand this? We have to be careful. Moving forward, he says, وَمَنْ مَاتَ وَعَلَيْهِ صَوْمٌ صَامَ عَنْهُ وَلِيُّهُ. He says, and whoever dies, وَعَلَيْهِ صَوْمٌ, and he has fasting on him, then his wali is to fast for him. What does this mean, sawm? Anyone who dies and they didn't fast, they missed days, they missed Ramadans, or a person made a vow to fast, another. They made a vow to fast. A vow. A voluntary fast. But once they made that vow, the fasting was no longer voluntary. You understand? You sure or not? Everybody with me? Once a person made the vow, then the act is no longer what? Voluntary. You didn't have to fast this extra day, but you swore to Allah to do it. You made an oath. You made another. Now that recommended day becomes obligatory. And all of a sudden you die. He says, whoever, is one of the two interpretations. A person dies in the third day of Ramadan, for example. Or let's say a better example. Person fasted for 15 days, right? And on the 16th day they got sick. And they died on the day of the Eid. How many days did they miss? 14, 15 days, give or take, right? So the person was alive when Ramadan was in or not? Were they a person, they were obliged to fast or not? They were. They became sick. After the person is healed, after the surgery, after they recover, they're supposed to do what? Make up the days. But the person died. Allah have mercy on his soul. They passed away now. So those 14 or 15 days are obligatory days or recommended days? They're obligatory. And the second scenario is a person who makes a vow to fast to Allah for 30 days if he allows him to pass this exam and get accepted to this university. Or cure my grandmother who's suffering from breast cancer. Whatever the case may be. And it happens. And then years go by and a person never fulfills his vow. And then he dies. And it was in his will. I owe Allah 30 days. Which of the two things is the author talking about? You say both. Everyone understand the difference? It's a fork in the road now. And the GPS says keep left, right? At the fork, do what? Keep left. The GPS is off now. It says this direction, but it doesn't say that on the road sign. Do you go right or do you go left? You can't do both. Both is crashing. Now, everyone understand this? Or maybe in this scenario, he's talking about what? Both. But before we get to what he's talking about, do we understand the difference? Tayyib. He says that the wali is supposed to do the fast for him. Who is the wali? What's meant by the wali? Sama anhu waliyu. A guardian. What is a guardian? An heir, relative, friend, handler of your estate. What's meant by a wali? So we have to point out someone who's going to fast for him. We can't just tell 20 people you all got to fast. I have many friends, family members, relatives, heirs. Who's my wali? And how do we understand this term when it's used in other chapters of fiqh? Everyone understand this? From one thing you learn what? 10,000 things. He says, rahimahullah, or before we go on to the last point, is it obligatory for him to fast for him? Or recommended to make up those days? Why does he have to fast for something that he didn't make upon himself? How is that fair? And that leads us to the word wali. Is it talking about someone who handles the will, handles the estate? If you take one of that responsibility, now you what? Everyone understand this? Or maybe not. Everybody clear? طيب, he says, وَالْكَبِيرُ الْعَاجِزُ عَنِ الْأَدَاءِ وَالْقَضَاءِ يُكَفِّرُ عَنْ كُلِّ يَوْمٍ بِإِطْعَامِ مِسْكِينٍ. And the Muslim who is an elder, al-kabir al-ajiz, and not just an elder, but a senior citizen, someone who's old. And in most cases, old age brings with it what? illness and or weakness. Not saying that just because you're old, you're weak, and you're sick. We said in most cases. Alhamdulillah, there are many Muslims whom Allah preserves. Some older brothers, you shake their hands, walaikum salam to Allah, and you feel a what? The grip, the gorilla grip. Even though he's old, but he still has a what? Some strength. But that doesn't mean he can what? Fast. He has to take medicine. He has to take this. He has to get this during the daytime. But he still has some type of what? Strength. So someone who's old and they have to take this medicine. They have to take this shot. They have to stay hydrated throughout the day. Al-kabir wal-ajiz, right? What do they do when they have these two things? Old age and weakness. He says those who cannot make fast, nor can they make up the fast. He says then they make the takfir. They feed someone each day that they miss. Each day what? That they miss. Each day that they miss. And the author does not specify the miskin being a Muslim or not. He says miskin. Poor person. Muslim or not. He doesn't specify here that the miskin has to be a what? A Muslim. So therefore, let's give another scenario. We have, it says, وَالْكَبِيرُ الْعَاجِزْ عَنِ الْقَضَاءِ. Or مثلا الْكَبِيرُ الْعَاجِزْ عَنِ الْأَدَاءِ. The one who's old and weak, who can't fast, is not included in this or is? Is or isn't? He can't fast. What is he to do? You guys didn't understand what I said.
Yeah, if he can, then he
Has to do what?
fast.
Listen carefully. Al-kabir al-ajiz an al-ada'. One who's old and weak to fast. What does he do?
He's a poor person.
Nope. You didn't understand. Listen to the sentence once more. He says, وَالْكَبِيرُ الْعَاجِزُ عَنِ الْأَدَاءِ وَالْقَضَاءِ. One who's old and weak, and he's incapable to fast and make up the fast, is to do what? Feed. Clear? I said, وَالْكَبِيرُ الْعَاجِزُ عَنِ الْأَدَاءِ. The one who's old and weak to fast, what is he to do? He's to make up the day. That's it. If he can't do ada, then he has to do qada. You understand this? And he who can't do ada or qada makes the what? The feeding. Fahim talan? There's a trick. You with me, Khalid? Now, moving forward. Let's repeat the sentence again in another way. وَالْعَاجِزُ عَنِ الْأَدَاءِ وَالْقَضَاءِ. One who's incapable of making the fast in Ramadan and making it up later on, what is he to do? Feed. Even though he's not old. He'd be 10 years old. He'd be 15 years old. Obviously, a 10-year-old could be in puberty. It's possible, especially nowadays. A person could have diabetes, Crohn's, whatever type of disease a person, many people will have different diseases. And they're not old. They're young people. They're still strong and young, but they can't fast. They have to do what? Feed. If it's a chronic illness, and which is going on throughout the year. I'm always taking this medicine every day. I can't make up the day. I can't fast at what? At all the time. Then you make the kafara. As far as if you broke your leg, and then a month or 2 months later, you stop taking a painkiller, your leg is better, you don't make the kafara. You don't feed. You now have to do what? Qada. You have to do just what? Just qada. Everyone understand this? Tayyib. Now, another issue is, what about a breastfeeding woman? A woman who's breastfeeding. A woman who's pregnant. This is very, very, very common and very problematic. What does she do? Does she just have to make up the days? Or make up the days with feeding? Or just feed without making up the days? Or do nothing?
Do nothing.
He says do nothing. What do you guys think?
According to the text, you're supposed to make it up when she's able.
Make it up when she's able. So you're making qiyas of the breastfeeding pregnant woman just like the ajiz. Okay? Tayyib. Anything else? It's a very, very, very widespread problem. You gave your vote, always. You gave your vote. Your
We had a class about that.
That's right. No
That's
doubt.
what I'm saying.
But
Take
your
that
ballot is what?
in.
It's in the box. Next voter. We did do a class.
No, I'm not changing.
We
my
did classes and lectures on this. Workshops. What do you do now? What do you tell your wife now? Or your sister?
You would have to feed just in case that the time when her breastfeeding rolls over to
So she now she last Ramadan she missed, and now it's what? It's Sha'ban now.
Yeah, she about to miss this one.
So now she's saying that's a penalty. You're saying?
Yeah, so she has to plead.
Interesting. Tayyib. Anybody else?
Pregnant again.
That's another problem.
Right. I mean,
Bearing another baby. The brother won't give her a break. And this, brothers and sisters, the ulama of Islam say, is from the wisdoms of polygyny. It's from the wisdoms of it. Everybody understand this? It takes the burden off of the what?
sister.
The first wife. And alhamdulillah, there are certain sisters, despite the majority or the minority, but there are certain sisters who not only believe in it truthfully, but also have some good understanding. As one sister, she said, a wise sister, she said, the way that I look at polygamy or polygyny is that the woman gets more out of it than the man. She said, that's the way that I look at it. The woman gets what? More out of it than the what? Than the man does. If you actually sit down and break it down. A man taking care of two households, his time, his energy, his love, this, and that. A woman who, not saying this about all sisters or whatever, but let's just say she can't get married. Or no one will want her, or whatever the case may be. Allahu alam. All right? And that's another misconception that many women have. They think that polygyny is only a means of necessity. It's only a means of charity. Marrying a sister that can't get remarried. That's wrong. Oh, if she has a broken leg, or she has one leg, what? You can marry her. That's sadaqah. Or many sisters, they have this mentality. Or the first wife can't have children, so now it's what? It's okay. That's wrong. A man can take on more than one wife if there was no need or reason. I mean, let's be honest now. We can live in this bubble of fantasy, or we can live in the real world, the brutally honest world. If a person is married to one wife, and he enjoys a woman and enjoys having a wife, what man, hypothetically speaking, would say, why wouldn't you want another wife? Everyone understands? How can you get married for a second wife and your first wife is not sick or ill or dead or old? You have to have a reason to get a second wife. I have to be sick. I can't produce children. Who came up with that? If a brother had the proper conditions and he says, I just want another wife, there is no necessity. I'm pleased with my first wife. She's beautiful. She's righteous. We have children. And I just what? I want more of the good that I find in the first marriage. It's not haram or disliked. And you'll be shocked when you sit down and talk to people and deal with the real life situations, the twisted mentality that most people have about polygyny today. Totally twisted and warped. And we've explained this before in our series on polygamy. We explained this in detail. All right? The colonization of someone's mind. Everyone understand this? And there are many problems that come from people not having a proper understanding of polygyny. And many people, they think that you can only get married if the first sister is 70 years old. Then you can take on a second wife. I've seen marriage contracts like that, in which the sister puts it in a contract, you cannot get remarried unless I'm 60-something years old. Then you can take on another wife. And look how stupid that condition is. Totally stupid. What 60-year-old woman that's been married to her brother for 30 years or 40 years is going to say, oh no, take on another wife now? I've been with you for 40 years, it's just been me and you. You sleeping out on my bed every night, wake up eating breakfast together for 40 years. But now, magically, what? Take on another wife. Doesn't make any sense. And it's a game that people are playing because the bottom line is they have not accepted it. Period. There's no interpretation to be made. They have not, وَيُسَلِّمُ تَسْلِيمًا. They haven't made full submission to Allah and His Messenger. That's the bottom line. And another proof for that is people, they want polygyny to be perfect, even though their first marriage is what? Imperfect. So what's the problem now? You have a problem with the system or the practice of the system? Are you perfectly happy with your husband? Does he do everything? Is he the perfect brother? Is he the more righteous brother? You're going to clearly say what? No. So therefore, if your marriage now isn't perfect, then make marriage what? Totally haram in Islam. What's the purpose then? Marriage can never be perfect as long as human beings are doing it. So what? Monogamy should also be what? Prohibited. Everyone understand this wisdom now? There's no difference now. The first situation isn't perfect. So the second situation, what? Doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to fall into contradiction now. And many people, they don't realize what they say. Everyone understand this? They don't realize it. Everybody got this? So it goes to show you that many people, they have taken the asl of marriage as monogamous. That's the default. And that's not the teaching of the Quran al-Kareem or the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. The asl is the legislation of Allah and His Messenger. 1, 2, or 3, or 4. But it doesn't say that. It says what? 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, or 4. And if you can't, then 1. Everyone understand this? So everyone's a scholar of Islam and a scholar of the Quran, and they quote from it, but the clear, obvious, apparent thing dead smack in front of them, they'll ignore. So many brothers, they make mistakes when it comes to polygyny, no doubt about that. Many brothers do. And many brothers abuse the system or don't practice the system perfectly. And many sisters, they make mistakes as being wives in a monogamous relationship. You're not a perfect wife, sister. You never were. You never will be. So why do you demand for your husband to be a perfect husband in order to take on a second wife? You're requesting something that you yourself can't give. You're not the perfect wife, with all due respect. You're far from the perfect wife. So why is your husband now required to be the perfect husband to have another woman? Everyone understand this? But the problem is, the bottom line is, you're with another woman. Period. Money, time, this, that, all of that stuff, that what it boils down to. Everyone understand this? So if you want to be submissive to Allah and His Messenger, it's one thing. If you want to say that you believe, I accept it, but I believe in it, but it's in the Quran, but then be like that. And the moment we keep picking and choosing what we want to practice and understand properly from Islam, our lives will remain what? The way that they are. I mean, ask Allah to help us all. Ameen. Khairan, inshallah. So therefore, the concept of a pregnant woman or a breastfeeding woman or a woman who's traveling, all these things, they are included, but oftentimes they're different than what the author mentioned. With regards to al-qada wal-it'am, al-it'am wa-hakada, the different scenarios and the interchangeable pieces. Allah Azza wa Jalla surely knows best, and we ask Him to give Him true understanding of